May, I rarely need a microphone. Welcome to the May meeting for the Internet Developer Group. This should be a very interesting meeting. Before we get started, I got one or two housekeeping notes I'd like to make. First of all, we have now exceeded 34,000 reviews of the archives for this group, so I think we're becoming fairly well identified. And my Webalizer will look at 40 countries, and we always exceed that in every month we go by. So we're being looked at from all over the world, which may be a scary thing. We're recording tonight's meeting, and as we do always, and it will be available within a matter of a few days up on the internet for streaming. We're probably going to standardize on streaming with real audio. I hope that meets with your approval. More different platforms seem to be able to handle that than almost any other kind of format, so that's where we'll go. It's my great pleasure to introduce Peter Thoeny tonight. Peter and I met a couple of years ago when he was consulting for some work on the Twiki and some implementations of the Twiki into a kind of unique environment. He has over 15 years of software architecture and user interface development experience. Been working with web technology through that time. For the last 4 years, 4 years, is that right? 5 years. 5 years. 5 years, he's been the main author and collaborator for the Twiki, which grew out of the wiki, which some people may be familiar with, but the Twiki really has gone so far beyond the wiki, it's really a platform and system of its own right now. He currently keeps himself otherwise occupied at Wind River as the engineering manager, but I think his real love is in doing the open source Twiki, if I had to guess about that thing. and you'll be able to tell from his accent, he's Swiss, he was educated in Switzerland. Okay. Peter?
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. We heard you. We got our attention. I'm sure listening.
The boat is leaving Pier 32.
Okay. So, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight, coming here. Probably there's still some pizza left. Help yourself. But probably Bill is watching out that you're...
No, go ahead.
That Bill is getting his $4. So. Okay, so tonight we will talk about web collaboration and Twiki in particular. So, we are going now into a presentation. And this presentation is not PowerPoint like usually. It's a presentation done in the Twiki tool. So we will see later on how that works. We have a fairly large number of slides, so I will go through quite quickly. Please feel free just to ask questions in between, that's fine. And so the agenda tonight is basically just look first in general what kind of challenges do we have in a distributed environment for intranets and also for content management systems. Then look a little bit what knowledge means, what wiki is. Then we start to look at Twiki, and then go into the highlights, some limitations, how we can learn about the technology. Then look at more some advanced features in web applications, and then some thoughts on initial deployment in case you're interested to start yourself. Some collaboration issues you should be aware of when you're using a tool like Twiki. And then one case study. Okay, so let's click over this. So first let's start with challenges on intranet. So intranet typically, especially in a larger corporation, is maintained by a whole bunch of webmasters. So each department has their own maintainer of an intranet website. So typically, intranet websites, they are kind of outdated, tend to be outdated, and the quantity is kind of limited. And you need to have special tools and knowledge to update those pages. And so the content is static, so I call it like a one webmaster syndrome. So what it means, I'm as an employee, if I see that something is not correct, that needs to be updated. I'm usually too busy to find out, well, who is not a webmaster and send an email, please update that. So the result is that the content usually gets stale very quickly. Then on distributed teams, nowadays, especially in high-tech companies with mergers, many times you have projects that are on several locations. So there the question is, how do I get a virtual team to work together efficiently? So everybody else in sync, that everybody knows what's going on. Also, how to avoid duplication, so that libraries are not written on two places in the same company that have the same functionality. So typical answers are conference calls, occasional visits by the managers, exchanging engineers, like for a month or so. Then to put like the market requirements document, design documents on a shared drive. And also, like everybody's just using email, it's very common. And also instant messaging is getting more and more popular, also at corporations. Now, email is fine, but there are some limitations that you need to be aware of. So email usually gets lost after some time, or you delete it. And also search of an email is usually limited to the client side. It's great for discussion, but after 20 emails on a subject going back and forth, it's difficult to find, well, what's the consensus? Plus also email is just like, it's a posting, so you're posting one message by one message, and once it's posted, it's there. So there's no way to change it. So also, it's not hyperlinked, so you can't, of course you have these email folders and everybody's doing with mail filters, that's pretty good. But also like the whole content is not under version control. So, so you don't really see what the history is of the documents or attachments in the emails. Now, completely separate angle, content management systems. They are perfect tools, and there the focus is usually on a rigid structure. And this can be good and bad. For example, for a pharmaceutical company that is keeping track of patents, they need to have a very rigid structure to make sure that the content is structured, can be found, and is organized correctly. Then, with CMS, usually the control over the content is more important than like free-form collaboration. Plus also, the content is typically arranged in a kind of a tree hierarchy or just a simple table, like a database table rows. And the key point here is there is very limited cross-linking between the content. And also there is not so much support for unstructured data. So it doesn't really support like our brain works. We usually imagine some kind of a structure, but then usually there are always some kind of exceptions. And CMS usually can't handle that. Now, what is knowledge? And how can you foster knowledge in a company? KM, or knowledge management, it's all about management. But now, Van Krog, who is from Switzerland, Nonaka and Ichio, they wrote a book called Enabling Knowledge Creation. Their assertion is that knowledge cannot be managed. They're saying knowledge only can be nurtured or enabled. And it's quite an interesting book. They identify 5 points, key points, how you can enable workers or employees, or how you can nurture the knowledge within a corporation or within an organization. So one is like to instill a knowledge vision. It's usually top down from upper management. Then manage conversation to be quite efficiently. Then to mobilize knowledge activists. So usually there are some experts in fields, but many times those experts, they have the knowledge in their head, or it's tribal knowledge that's very localized. So if you get to mobilize those experts, then that's a win. Then also create the right context for knowledge creation. So with the right tools, the right procedures you put in place, you can foster the knowledge that way. And then also to globalize local knowledge. So the tribal knowledge that all these groups have, that you somehow globalize it and make it available to other groups within the organization. By the way, this presentation is available from the Twiki.org website. You can print it out, so you don't need to make some notes. It's also available from Bill's website. Or actually, it will be available. We just started to put it up there.
Check with me tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what is Wiki? Well, first of all, who heard about Wiki or who heard about Wiki? Well, pretty much everybody. Well, maybe 80%. And who is already using some type of Wiki system? Maybe 20, 30%. Okay, so it's already kind of known. So Wiki or WikiWiki is a writable web. So key point is it's very quick to contribute content, like writing an email. And it's also as easy to use like a website, like reading a website. So a person called Ward Cunningham implemented this original system in the mid-90s. And he mainly used it to collaborate on software patterns. And plus also extreme programming. That's basically the birthplace from extreme programming. And the whole idea is somehow inspired by HyperCard on one side, but also on like Tim Berners-Lee's original vision of the World Wide Web. So the World Wide Web has a get function that everybody is using to read pages, but it also has a put function that very few, because of security deficiencies, is never enabled on websites. So the World Wide Web as we know it today is a read medium, so it is not what Tim Berners-Lee envisioned in the beginning. Okay, so the design principle, it's open, incremental, and organic. There's a word in Japanese, it's called wabi-sabi, and it means like the beauty of the imperfection. So if you have some Japanese garden or some kind of, how do you call it?
Kanji?
Ceramic stuff, yeah.
Oh, origami?
No, ceramics. So they're usually there's usually some part of imperfection put in by design. Okay, so here it's the same idea in WikiWiki. So it's never something that is perfect or finished. It's always something organic that is evolving all the time. Now, there are some key features that a basic wiki system has. So basically, every page can be edited. So every page has an edit button. But just using a browser, you don't need any Dreamweaver or web authoring tool. Then the editing is usually form-based, HTML form-based, so it's not WYSIWYG editing. Then pages are served dynamically by a CGI program, typically, or web servlet. And pages are linked automatically based on WikiWord, so we will talk about this in a minute. And since it's form-based, not WYSIWYG, there's a simple markup language to make something bold or italic and so on. There are now over 100 wiki engines, so if you follow this link here, open it in a new window. So now we are jumping to the c2.com website, and if you look through here, there are lots of wiki engine in all different kind of languages. Now, what is Twiki? So if you notice the Twiki, there is a capital W, so it stands for T and Wiki. T stands for Take 5. That's a company that got acquired by Wind River. I started Twiki when I was working for Take 5. So T stands for Take 5.